Hello everybody, my name is Jackie Burns and I chose to do my presentation on the progression of jumping. I am a CrossFit coach at a military affiliate on a NATO base here in Europe, and I chose to do jumping because in my programming I use a lot of plyometric drills and we use a lot of jumping in those drills. So I thought this would be a great opportunity for me to learn the different progressions of it. Started by talking about the 3 different types of jumps that our book mentions, and we have a standing vertical jump, we have a standing long jump, and we have a hop. So let's go ahead and get started. So here on this next slide, this is pretty much what I just explained. So the vertical jump you have over here, you start with the squat, or you can start standing up, and we'll talk about that later, and then you jump up as high as you can. You have a horizontal jump here, and you're trying to go as far as you can, and then you have a hop. Vertical jump, or what is jumping? Let's go ahead and take a look and see where we're at here. So jumping is a fundamental motor skill, and we need it to thrive in life. We need it to be like our peers. We need it physically and cognitively. We need it physically so we can build that strength and the power in our lower body that will help us develop better in walking and better in jumping skills. And we need it cognitively so we can learn how to coordinate our body movements and to learn how to balance properly. So jumping is a very, very important fundamental motor skill that we need to learn at a very young age. So with the vertical jump, this is your basic jump. You start with 2 feet on the ground. You flex your hips first and then your knees, and then you're going to jump up and reach up as high as you can, and then you're going to extend both your hips and your knees and your ankles, and then when you land, you're going to land on the balls of your feet. And we see this movement start to develop as early as the 10th fetal week in utero. And you see it as just coordinated movements that the baby is doing, kicking its feet and its legs back and forth. And then you start to see it more often and more prevalent when the infant is in the 6 to 10 month range, and you see it when the infant is holding on to something and they're bouncing up and down. And this is a coordinated bilateral bouncing up and down. So they're using both their feet. They're using both of their feet to on the ground, and they're using both legs to help them do that movement. And then as they get older, you start to see it a regular jump with 2 feet on the ground and going up, reaching up to the sky and coming back down. You see that jump happen more around the age of 5 years old. But between that 6 to 10 month period to 5 years old, they're really learning how to walk, and they're really building the muscle and strength and the power in their legs in order to be able to get any kind of height off the ground. Okay, so let's talk about that childhood to late adolescence years and how the jumping affects them. So once the child gets to that developmental stage, which is usually around 5 years old, to where they have jumped off enough couches and chairs and beds to have mastered the skill of jumping, their level is going to plateau right there. And it isn't unless the child is involved in some kind of sport or activity that requires them to jump that they're going to be more successful in the jumping. So if a child does require jumping for their sport or for their activity, the child is going to gain 3 to 5 inches every year until the age of 11. That's a pretty big progression. So they're building more muscle, they're building more power and coordination to where they can jump higher each year. Now, a male is going to continue to progress with the 3 to 5 inches. They're going to continue to progress with height until their age of 17. And a female is going to continue to progress with their height until the age of 14, which is usually right around when puberty starts. Okay, so let's go into young and late adulthood and see where that takes us to. So with young adult to late adulthood, if this young adolescent child continues to practice in their sport or activity, they're going to continue to build that strength and power in their lower body that they need to excel with their jumping. And so they will continue to grow and be better at jumping. And when they get to around ages 25 to 30 years old, these 5 years, we will see the biggest peak motor performance. So you're going to see the most strength efforts, a better cardiovascular effort, and the ability to process information. It comes faster to us. So between those 5 years is when you're really going to excel in your sport or your activity with the jumping, and this is with the years of practice if you have been practicing all this time. After the age of 30 years old, we experience a 1% decline each year. So if you're not practicing and you're not continuing to practice jumping, or you're not exercising your lower body, you're going to experience that 1% decline every year. That's pretty, 30 years old is pretty young to kind of stop there and start declining. So with the help of exercise and building that strength and power into your legs, you will stay pretty consistent with your jumping. All right, I want to touch really quickly on the late adulthood to our very, very, very late adulthood years, like 90s, 100 years old. So unless you continue to practice and stay active and move as much as you can, that 1% is going to affect you. And as you get older, you are going to still be able to jump, but it's not going to happen as fast or as high as you once did. So the ability to jump is still there, and you're still cognitively going to know how, but you're going to lose that strength and power that you had in your lower body unless you practice and unless you keep that muscle power there. Okay, so moving on, I'm going to ask a little question here, and I want you guys to think about it. So ask yourself, if I'm interested in jumping for height, how should I start? With my hips and knees extended, as right here in A, or in a half squat stance? So ask yourself that question, kind of take a moment, and then let's see what you come up with. Then think about it. So in movement anatomy, if you haven't taken this class yet, you will for the kinesiology program. We discussed a stretch shorten cycle, which is a very quick eccentric to concentric movement. And it was then that we learned that the muscle's capability to produce force is increased with this cycle. So if you wanted to jump higher, the answer is going to be with A, because in A, we're starting in the eccentric movement, standing straight up, and then we're going to quickly go to our concentric movement, which is when your weight is going against gravity. So when you are squatting down. Thus, you would produce a higher jump than if you were to start in the half squat movement. All right, hopefully that was a review for you guys, and we all remember about the stretch shorten cycle, a very important cycle that we need to know in life. Anyways, so let's go over some potential complications with learning how to jump. There's either a cognitive complication or a low motor function complication, and these are complications that you're born with. So if you have a cognitive dysfunction that does not allow you to learn or to accept the ability to know how to jump, then that's definitely going to be a complication when trying to learn. There's going to be a lot more, it's going to take a lot longer to develop the skills and the understanding of how to jump. And so with this low motor function, these kids are the ones that are born they're born with the ability to learn how to jump and with the muscles to learn how to jump, but maybe their muscle power and strength just isn't where it is with all the other typical 5 or 6-year-olds. So what happens with these children who have a low motor function is that they tend not to want to play with the other kids on the playground because maybe they're intimidated or they feel left out. So what happens is that they don't want to play. And that is a really hard thing to take, because if you don't play and if you don't do your hopscotch or jump rope or play tag or chase everybody, then you're not building those muscles and you're not building that strength. So it is those complications are pretty detrimental to learning how to jump, and if you can overcome those, or if you can work on them, or if you're showing the will that you want to work on them, then you can definitely overcome them and hopefully you can learn how to jump. So I brought up the fact that outside play is very important to jumping, and that stays true for learning for about our world around us. So in order for us to thrive in our environment, jumping is a very important skill. We need to be able to watch our peers do it to where we get excited about it, to where we want to learn about it, so that we could try it ourselves. And we learn with our peers in physical education, so PE and recess in our younger years are ways to help us develop those abilities to thrive in life, to help us want to be better at jumping and help us want to find a new fundamental motor skill. And it's with that play that we really start to understand how to jump and the different ways of jumping. Now, if a child is neglected, very sad to say, if a child is neglected and they're locked in a room to where they have no idea what a jump is or how to do it, or maybe they don't have muscles to do it and they don't even know what a jump is, then that's going to affect them quite a bit. So, I mean, that is an extreme, but in that case scenario, the point I was trying to get at is that you need your environment to learn how to thrive and to learn how to do these different motor skills. And jumping specifically is very important to your life. And if you're deprived of it and you don't know how or what it is, then it's really going to affect you and it's really going to have a complication in your life. Okay, so I hope that I was able to explain to you the different stages of our life skills and how jumping is affected in each of those stages. And in closing, I just want to say that I really encourage everybody to get out there and try a new skill and to learn something new and to have fun and to jump around and to play with your kids or to chase a cat or a dog and just really be out there and stay active, because that's really what's going to move all of our human movements, is staying active for as long as we can. So thank you, and I hope you guys have a great Christmas and happy holidays.